You've finished every ongoing series on your list. You're done waiting a week for one chapter that gets delayed anyway. So here's the fix. 10 manhwa that are already finished and ranked by my own expert point system based on plot payoff, art evolution, and how satisfying that final chapter actually feels. No filler, let's get started. Number 10 on our list is Return of the SSS class ranker. Rokan was the king of violence, the undisputed strongest player inside the VR game The Lord. Then a rival guild had him assassinated, and he lost everything he'd built. He wakes up 3 years in the past, memories intact, and one promise on his lips. He's going to devour every single person who betrayed him. At first, I thought this was just another regression revenge story riding the trend. What surprised me was how mean Rokan actually gets. This isn't a redemption arc, it's a warpath, and the early art doesn't hold back on that tone. It's currently complete, and it earns a 8.3 expert points because the payback is brutal and satisfying, even if the side characters never get much room to breathe. Number 9 on our list is Dragon Devouring Mage. Russell Raymond comes from a fallen bloodline of mages, and everyone at the academy treats him like a joke. A third-rate talent with a famous last name and nothing to back it up. After getting expelled and grinding out a living as a mercenary, a memento from his dead mother sends him rewinding straight back to his academy days, this time with a power nobody's ever seen. I'll admit the first few chapters lean hard into familiar, weak nobody becomes strong beats. What won me over was the dragon mechanic itself. It doesn't just make Russell stronger, it changes how he thinks about power entirely. Complete at a solid chapter count, it lands 8.4 expert points for a fresh spin on a tired premise. Docks slightly for a slow opening stretch. Number 8 on our list is Trait Hoarder. Kim Junsu is a broke, free-to-play player in the mobile game Arcane Soul, and he gets yanked into the game's world possessing its most basic tutorial character, Warrior Kim. No cheat stats, no hidden bloodline, just his memorized game knowledge and one busted ability. He can swap traits in and out like a deck of cards. What really surprised me here was how tactical the fights get. This isn't a one-punch solves everything power fantasy. It's closer to a puzzle where Junsu has to actually think his way through danger. The art levels up hard in the back half. Now complete, it takes 8.8 expert points for rewarding smart readers over passive ones. Number 7 on our list is A Million Sub-Gym Influencer Becomes a Webtoon Loser. Monsters started invading straight out of a B-movie, and humanity discovered superpowers to fight back. But the strongest guy in this story isn't flexing lightning bolts. He's just a man in a tiger print tracksuit running a gym called Stronger Gym, hyping up his regulars like it's leg day, not doomsday. At first, I thought this was going to be a straight parody with no substance. What actually got me was how genuinely wholesome the found family vibe is between the gym crew. The comedy timing is sharp, and the art style leans into exaggerated expressions that just work. Fully complete, it earns 9.0 expert points for being the funniest, most feel-good entry on this entire list. Number 6 on our list is I Grow Stronger by Eating. Mr. Kim, nicknamed Pet Shop for his very specific power, can absorb the abilities of any creature he eats. One ordinary day, he's yanked into a magical world crawling with orcs, trolls, and things with way too many teeth. New world, new menu, new skills, and Pet Shop treats every monster like an all-you-can-eat buffet on his climb to the top. I'll admit the early art is rougher than I expected for a series this popular. What kept me hooked was the escalation. Every meal genuinely changes his strategy, so fights never feel repetitive. Complete and satisfying, it scores 8.8 expert points for a hunger-fueled power system that never gets stale. Number 5 on our list is Bloodhound's Regression Instinct. Yan spent years brainwashed into serving the Emperor like a loyal attack dog, only to realize he'd been played the entire time. He tries to get his revenge, gets crushed for it, and instead of dying, wakes up back in his days as a raw recruit in training. Now he's got a second shot, and a choice between chasing vengeance or finding the family he lost. What really surprised me was how emotionally heavy this gets compared to other regression stories. It's not just power scaling, it's grief. The art during flashback sequences is genuinely gorgeous. Now complete, it earns 9.3 expert points for balancing action with an actual emotional gut punch. Number 4 on our list is Superhuman Battlefield. 17 years ago, the 7 heroes saved the world, and Seomin Yeop paid for that victory with his life. Now, in an era of peace, superpowered espers have nothing left to prove except inside Battlefield, a VR combat tournament. And Korea's team has been embarrassingly bad lately. for a country that once had the strongest esper alive. Then Seomin Yeop shows back up somehow, impossibly alive. At first, I thought a legendary hero return setup would feel predictable. What surprised me was how the story uses the VR tournament format to build genuinely tense, strategic showdowns instead of just raw power flexing. Complete and fully paid off, it earns 9.5 expert points for turning a game show premise into real stakes. Number 3 on our list is The Boxer. Legendary Coach K is scouting for one final prodigy when he stumbles on a scene that stops him cold. A teenage boy standing completely still while bullies wail on him, showing no fear, no anger, nothing. But Coach K sees precision in every flinch, and he knows immediately this is the fighter he's been chasing his whole career. When he tries to recruit him, the boy only asks one hollow question: is it fun? Hitting people? I'll admit the early chapters are uncomfortable on purpose, and that's exactly the point. What really surprised me was how the fights double as psychology, not spectacle. Fully complete, it earns 9.7 expert points for being the most quietly devastating character study on this list. Number 2 on our list is Solo Leveling. Jinwoo Sung, the weakest E-class hunter alive, gets dragged into a hidden double dungeon that should have killed him, and instead hands him a system no other hunter has ever had. What follows is the single biggest word-of-mouth manhwa success in the genre's history. At first, I thought putting the most famous title on this list at number 1 was obvious. What actually landed it at number 2 is the ending. After everything this story built, the finale leaves real threads feeling rushed and undercooked for a series this massive. Complete and still essential reading, it earns 9.8 expert points, with the deduction entirely for that anticlimactic final stretch. Number 1 on our list is The Greatest Estate Developer. Civil engineering student Suho Kim falls asleep reading a fantasy novel and wakes up inside it possessing Lloyd Frontera, a lazy, drunk noble whose family is buried under a mountain of debt. But Suho didn't bring nothing with him. He brought an engineering degree, and he's about to use city planning and infrastructure to save a fantasy kingdom nobody else could fix. At first, I thought engineer isekai sounded like a gimmick that had run out of ideas fast. What actually happened is the opposite. Every arc escalates the stakes of what Suho builds, and it never once feels repetitive. Complete and an easy full read-through, it earns 9.9 expert points for being the most creative, most consistently satisfying power fantasy on this entire list. That's the list. 10 complete manhwa, 0 cliffhangers left hanging, and every single one ranked by story payoff, not hype. Drop your own number 1 in the comments. I want to see if anyone disagrees with putting Solo Leveling at number 2. See you in the next one.